Now we've got some understanding of what the internet is and how different computers and devices can connect to the internet using copper, optical fiber, satellite, microwave signals, mobile data networks and so on. And we've got some idea about speed and range and bandwidth and contention, etc. Now we need to look at mainly these three topics that the exam board have defined as World Wide Web technologies. So these are the different types of networks businesses and organizations and the public use to connect to the World Wide Web. Or rather, they are elements of World Wide Web that we tend to access. So we've got Internet, Intranet and Extranet. And these are the topics they like you to kind of regurgitate in the exam, this idea that the internet is public. Anybody can access it, which means it's open access. Whereas the intranet usually is like, they like to describe it as an internet within the internet. So it's only usually within your organization that the intranet exists. Only people in your organization access the intranet. So on the college, we have an intranet. It runs on one of the college's servers. It's accessible over the internet, but the public don't access it. If you don't have a college logon, you can't get to it. So if any of you guys have been on the Pro products, I think yours shows you things like your attendance and your tracking grids and information, you know, about you that you can go and check and have a look at. And so that's kind of on an intranet. Only you access that with your own password. So that means it's, even though it's on the intranet, even though it's kind of out there, people can only see the front page. You can't get past the login. It's private, which means it's got closed access because only people who can use the username and password to get past the security get access to the intranet. And then we have an extranet, which again is like an intranet in the sense that it's private only for your organization, but part of it might be shared with another company. So if you're Amazon, you might use other people to deliver your products and they need access to parts of your system. So they would jump onto your intranet just to see the bits that they need access to, and that becomes then an extranet. Now, you need to understand the difference between these networks, which is why it explains that here. And you need to understand the characteristics of these networks, and you need to understand what they are actually used for. Okay, so if we move on, we can see here that here's an example of an intranet from the University of Chichester. And we can see here that we've got some news articles there that people might need to be interested in. There are various links here to academic standards, accommodation, stuff about catering and conferences, various different links to things like Moodle and support, and you can book a conference room, look at the library, go on to your email. And this is all within the intranet, and you can see here this is Victoria Black's intranet. And you don't see any of this until you've logged in because it's private for users of your organization. Okay, so whereas the internet is public and open for everybody, your intranet is private and closed for people in your organization, and the extranet is private and closed for people in your organization and anybody else that you might give access to because they work with your organization. So now let's have a look at an exam question. Progress Bike Safe is considering using an intranet to enable the part-time staff to access the details of their courses. Describe what is meant by an intranet. So you just have to give an explanation there for 2 marks. So what is it, and maybe some description of what it does. You might mention that it's private, it's closed access, it's only used within the organization. And then for 6 marks, identify some characteristics, 2 characteristics of an intranet, which would make it suitable for part-time staff to access course details. So now you need to think of the context of it's a bike save company. They have people who teach courses about safety on bikes, and they want to do that from an intranet, and they're asking you to think about part-time staff accessing these details. What things would an intranet be good for, and how would maybe that look, and how might they use it? And that's worth 6 potential marks. So if we have a quick look at the mark scheme. So what is an intranet? Well, it's a private network, or you could say it's accessed over a VPN. It's an intranet within the internet. It's only accessible to the staff or people with those credentials, and anything else that's a sensible suggestion there for 2 marks. Okay, and then the second part of the question, which was asking us about the characteristics. Speed. Documents can be placed on an intranet for a mark. They can be accessed without having to wait for copies to come through the post. Security. Learners' details are all kept safe on the intranet. Only people with credentials can access documents and registers and teaching materials and so on. It can have access levels, which means staff can get what they need, and part-time staff can only access the stuff that's potentially relevant to them. Accessibility would get you a mark there, because staff can access the documents on the intranet from pretty much any device, anywhere in the world, as long as they've got connection to the internet. So this concept of ubiquitous access. To understand intranets, extranets, and intranets, and whether they're open, closed, private, public, and what they're used for.